Go ahead, always, whenever you use copper cage, connect the body with 3 and 27 or the next one.
And with the 7 carry that the it would be the same thing.
Exactly the same, perhaps in a magnified form, but as I guess it, I are called. Uh, the cage you have made just now, this 7, it's not really a reduplication of this one. There are several differentiating factors. I couldn't say archiving that this it made sevenfold over there. I feel there are several distinguishing features, but as I wanted 7 and 7 will give some results, that is alright. But as I see registered here in this brain what you were telling here today, that's also what kind the thin copper spheres, the spheroid tin copper progressively applied to the human body, keeping the breathing system intact, of course. But that you'll have to work out that, I don't know. The thin copper, that's what I find here. What is that thin copper?
It's a very thin copper which is available like tin foil,
Yeah.
extremely thin, like paper. I suggested to him if, in order to test the hypothesis of the 7 layers very simply, it would be possible to get this very thin copper foil and wrap it around a body and make a cylinder, and then have 7 concentric cylinders and slide them over the body, and then apply the electrical charge and let it to be assigned to the sheathing over the body.
That perhaps you have no time to do before your date, but that's certainly worthwhile, and we'll see when and whether it could be done and how. But so far as the copper is concerned, that sort of application will be really very good, worth trying anyway. See how it works. We have something to give in that reference too. We'll do that later. Yeah, question?
Yes, we didn't quite complete the wiring setup of the cage. We found that the outer cage would be grounded. And I wasn't certain. Mr. Wergy said the 3 and 27 should be applied.
3 and 27 to the body.
Well, that would be to the inner cage, because you have the inner cage to the body.
Yeah.
But that 3 rolls and 27 are,
Yeah.
that correct?
Correct.
Okay, well, I think we can do that as long as there's too many variables and should complicate it. Our next problem is define the sensitive or a person on whom the test be.
Whomever you are trying, should be immediately. You don't really use the copper cage except doing this. This is the next stage of the copper evolution, copper cage evolution. Copper cage.
And we replace the previous setup by this setup.
Yeah. Next time you are putting up anyone in copper cage, just do this. It's really the copper cage brought in a closer contact with the spandic continuum of the libido. That's all. Nothing more is happening.
Well, it is how to reverse the potential. Before the cage, the inner cage was grounding the outer cage is potentially.
Before what is before the
ground? Before we grounded the inner cage but the potential on the outer cage.
between the plates and the outer cage. The screen above and the potential was applied between the screen above and the outer cage, the inner cage being grounded. How?
Now we are grounding the outer cage and putting the
Correct.
and
Putting the voltage on it.
according to you, do you see any difficulty or danger?
Yeah, it took me whether what
Any danger or difficulty or distress?
no danger. In fact, we can use any voltage. We can use the high voltage in that way because there won't be any current on.
The potential will then be applied between the outer cage and the inner cage. A wire will be run from the outside cage to, say, the base of its spine.
Locally.
Come the outside cage will have to this is the potential there.
No, you don't have it. It is what you do. No, it's not the electrical thing with the memory quality of the copper, which is to be bled off, so to speak, from the inner cage directly onto the body of the person inside.
So the permanent, let us give you the final note. The permanent feature is this, that whenever you put a subject inside,
I know.
let his body be in tune with the copper cage this way, 337. And the highest one should also be given in case you want some concentrated research. If it's everything left to you because you will work. But if you apply any formula out of these four, it's bound to help the taking into account the copper potential and the human body spannic continuum. Noticeable, unnoticeable, latent, manifest, all these things that you have discovered yourself sometimes face us with a baffling paradox and dilemma, but overlook them as long as the base is there. Whatever refracts is accidental and will be eliminated.
Are set up where the copper plates were applied to the back, to the base of the spine, and to the top of the spine. A potential was applied between those two plates. Now, if a potential is still to be applied between those two plates inside the cage, that would mean that the one plate would have to be connected to the inside. The one connection to the back would have to be connected to the inside cage, the other connection to the outside cage, so that that potential would still exist between the 2 points on the spine. Now, is there that electrical potential to exist, or is it to be or are both points to be attached to the inner cage? If that were done, you see, there would be no electrical potential between the 2 points. All that would be transferred there would be whatever it is from the copper.
There will be only one point and not 2.
There will only be 1 point.
Oh, that will be salty.
In other words, 2 plates could actually be hooked together. Because if they both go to the inner cage, they will be in effect hooked together.
Yeah.
Well, that gives, we understand now, but that is what difficult for us to understand because
it doesn't make any electrical.
Doesn't make electrical.
Yeah, that's right. That is, if electricity is to pass between the 2 points from the spine, which it did before, now there will be no electricity passing. Well, or whatever it is, or it to pass.
Well, let me interject this, that there were times when we used this dielectric where no electrical energy path. So our assumption now is, as we've mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, that it's not the electricity which we apply, but what it does is a copper, and what the copper in turn does to the spondic continuum, or spondic continuum body.
If there are in all 4 points on the spandic continuum, 3 are on the spine, and the 4th is the navel, which all could be used in reference to this potentiation of potentiation that somebody said yesterday. Well, we have to you take into account what the body will say, but the idea is this: what we want to reveal without dependence on the body is this: the ratios which we are responsible for giving. The points of the body on the body he could tell you, because they are not such far too mysterious or far too occult properties.
I have another question. Now, we cannot expect you to, I'm sure you don't have the equivalent on your level of existence that we have in the Army people, but it has been our plan, in order to be most convincing, that we develop demonstrable techniques. We know also that there is no one who knows this body better than you, having it being your creation. We wondered if you could guide us in the selection of one of his powers which will aid us in this problem of convincing the Army, for the greater cause, world peace, of course, for the immediate purpose of his contact. Or some technique which we can use with him, that we can demonstrate in and out of the cage.
Go, media. Well, we have very important information to give you on that count. I don't know whether. See, as long as the body will be kept, we self here, and the best possible receivers in reference to our subjects will accrue forth. In reference to this body being sort of enabled to produce some demonstration or something, we will intimate to the body and to you. We may not sort of determine the whole structure of our performance, which is this body, in reference to suit certain unimportant requirements, but that could be done perhaps. We can work it out. But reference to one or two things I should report to you. The friend whom we have set up is completely reliable, and he is working very well, and we are working to him. Your friend here, on that, what do you call him?
Dr. Puharich,
A colonel. Really? Really. So we have set him right, we are working to him, and he is dependable. Absolutely dependable now. It wasn't in the beginning. We are taking all possible care about him. Nothing had happened, nothing has gone wrong. These things will, in that area, what do you call it, military or army, yeah. These things are absolutely normal, and they have to deal with vast numbers of man papers. They are not far to consensus on these things, so don't get annoyed for little things which he has been suffering from, and It's not a, it's not a, it's not such a serious disadvantage or misfortune as you may be thinking about, and nothing will go wrong in that direction.
Well, that good will, I'll do so. Yeah.
Nothing will.
Very old time.
Don't be worried about his health, about which we are particularly careful and anxious to keep him in perfect health and mood. So all of you should leave it to us and don't have anxious moments at all on his account. Everything will work out normally. And this will happen in that field. Anything more? If guys, I have some time.
Does anybody else have a question about
Any
purpose out?
personal, impersonal, world, universe, cosmos, we, whatever you like to ask, we should like to give you at our level. Maybe have put, may not yet.
Well, this is a little apart from our research work for him, so they returned to that in a moment. That it's been a rather world-shaking events in a form of a serious illness of the leader of the Russian people, Mr. Stalin. I wonder if that has in any way affected the July and August crisis, which would have been brought about, or whether this is part of that crisis.
Right. It is a part of that crisis. But we might hint that the warward direction has begun. It won't result in war, but it's whipped up in a very real way in Europe, in Far East, over here. The war is on. It won't manifest because we are all working. But between August 10th, 20th to September 15th, 20th, very crucial period. And we have to be strong, we have to be positive, we have to be Godward, we have to be peaceful, we have to be every one of us, because that's what constitutes the total nature of the human family. Negative towards the friend, negative towards the family, towards the wife, towards the husband. We should try to escape it in the next 6 months. Try to be more and more adjusting, responsive, understanding. You will help us very much. You will help the cause of peace. You will help the human family. Otherwise, 65 years more, we will rock and roll to endless misery, destruction, and devastation. How are we going to do about it? You might ask that we are such humble non-entity. What on earth is going to happen if I don't remain party? No. It is the little things that finally matter. And we have to be strongly re-educating ourselves toward the goal, which is going. There is no goal of arrival. Going is the goal. But we must go in the right direction. Movement alone is not evolution or progress. It is movement in a particular direction that means progress. Even going down and going backward is movement, but it's not progress. That's what we have to distinguish over here in America. We confuse movement with progress. If we travel from here to there in one moment less than the other way around, we feel we have gained. Not unless the gain of the one moment is put to the better use. That's what we always blunder about. Even the moral standard, as we apply it continuously in our life, the moral standard is a compass point. It's not a destination or arrival. There are no set patterns of conduct which make it moral or otherwise. What imparts the particular moral quality to any pattern of thinking or speaking or acting is the approximation to the compass point, the ethical standard. It's not doing this or that. Your philosopher Dewey has made some advance in the sense that he teaches us to have our thought action word. We must think in order to act. That type of teaching and that stage of activity we almost have outgrown by now. It is equally true that we must act in order to think better. It's not that we must think better in order to act. That's obviously true, too much of a platitude. But all our actions must further lead us into better mentation, better approach, spiritual and inward approach to the compass point of the ethical standard for human activity. Am I intelligible?
Yes, right. All right, there. Yeah. I was very much impressed by that point. I detected the resemblance to Shakespeare, and knew it explained why they think me as the resemblance.
Which poem? I'll call you. Which poem you mean?
So one that was given us at our first setting, which is a teardrop falls from the highest man and becomes dew on his cheek from soak for. Beautiful, beautiful piece of poetry, which reminded Mr. Young Rector of Shakespeare. I wondered.
There are this, just as river passes through the Rockland station, enjoys and experiences the impact of that locus. Shakespearean inspiration had the largeness, had the unending lengths and horizon, where in that cosmic embrace of inspiration, man, nature, God, everything was touched, everything was brought in effective cohesion. And this poem which you refer, the earth, the human tear, the vastness of the conception, which was the outstanding feature of this experience inspiration. We could only congratulate you on this, that there is no other illustration possible, other inspiration which could be, which can share in that largeness. So this body, when we put it in the cage, we are sure about the efficacy of the cage proposition. But as all of you have felt to some little extent, enough evidence or data has not yet arrived. That's exactly the point of my visit to you tonight. The copper cage projection is in its pregnancy, not even infant, pregnancy stage. That's why some of these boys are being so very much intrigued with that. They themselves know. That boy who is away also told me that what the whole thing is, I really don't know any particular way, but that it has to do something and to contribute something, and absolutely for them. And that is the truth. It is an effectuation of a process at its most latent stage. Today is the next stage we have reached. The ethereal aspect that we already admirably pointed out, the ethereal continuation of the copper qualities and the spandic continuation of the human body. These are the two arcs. Tonight we brought them together. The concrete knowledge in shape of theorems and propositions and explications, that too will come out. That too will be really made handy to you, perhaps first to you than to anyone else, we might say. But they always work like that, as knowledge becomes knowledge is a function of being. Will you note this as one of the major actions? Knowledge is a function.
Or the other function.
Of being. Well, that question could be answered in obvious something else than that. That question is much too subtle to be answered in a particular way, but we want to develop one idea about it, which is this. If mutually exhausting implications, of proposition which are convertibles, the two terms of which are convertible. Actually, it is you, I'm not certain, but I think I am. The problem of consciousness, is it that you care about?
Yeah.
Consciousness is the third some quid in which being and knowing in one way and in one sense are synthesized in a completeness. But there is a further point that if consciousness could be distinguished from being, then alone consciousness is the third term. But actually what happens is this: in practical exploration of this final matrix of semantics, unless you are conscious, you are really not there, you don't be. And the moment you are conscious and moment you are, you also know. It's possible that you do not know that you know. Therein comes the emergence of reflective consciousness, a field very important for you to study. The area of reflective consciousness. Now,
Oh, we're coming to the end of one of our tapes. We'd like to replace it so we don't lose. Okay. You have that being, knowing, and consciousness as the threefold aspect of it.
the issue of being, you make me
I've done it for three words that would describe the threefold aspect. I would rather say that consciousness has a threefold aspect in being, knowing, and choice, or being, knowing, and action, something of that sort. Could you help me on other words to replace the other three?
consciousness has, what did it say?
The three aspects of being, knowing, and a choice or action that may occur.
Well, the first correction we might permit to approval, call it the conscious principle. Don't call it consciousness, because, as you know, consciousness means a state of the thought. When what we are listening to now, what you have in mind, is that principle of consciousness, of in the sense of equity, not correctness. But the principle of consciousness is different, and unless we accept it as a principle, it will not have these three here different facets. That's clarification. Then I think let us not involve ourselves into the old Greek classification of human personality and something human and will. That can be helpful in many ways. We don't criticize the use, because it does help and clarify by the suit. But we approach it slightly differently in the term that, as you pointed out, it's there is a unity of manifestation, the unity of manifestation of the principle of contentment, the contentment. And that unity, feeling, thinking, and willing, hardly could be separated or even distinguished, except for very important, really, or very important people. Now, if you want this three words, we could state that he, money, and happiness. Wow.
The ideal world is we could bring you from modern physics to modern epistemology procession. Why can I use it? Processing in the sense that the being, when viewed in relation of its function as knowing, the activity that is involved is named as processing. Within the three, process theory also point toward it that the kaya or the, but we want to equip that will, suggestion of the will, in this highly thinned out field of effective medical. Yeah. I draw on the ethological free that the mutable cardinal and sit that the word compel are without meaning. That however mutable correlate a thick thick correlate a B. Cardinal would correlate opposite action and willing and different correlate the proper. Cardinal is the active aspect of the perspective. I've opened the tells to the correlates the hair, prep, and do today. Not in that order though, because the future is the being states in that card. The crescent was the active state, and the head is the session because it's that which you. But well, let us see. Let's just submit that alternative. The being should be the cardinal, or D should be the static. That'll be a fake. X. Knowing the equals comparatively and proportionately knowing and doing proportionately are less fixed than being. But more fascinating study here, that's really true scheme. I will tell you one more word from Sanskrit that will be also familiarized to the whole word part. That can live. One is panda. P-A-N-D-A. Another is pratibha. E-R-A-T-I-B-H. Pratibha. Now, that word is picked from the Sutra of Patanjali, but what it means, thank you for getting into that being and knowing stuff before this could be come and run. This is the keynote of all properties of sentient data and all the methods of controlling nature in one another. The keynote is the principle of consciousness, free from all the limitative reference. If the consciousness state shining in its
which radium is eternity. It is delivered. That is the state of consciousness or principle of consciousness. We arrive at that. We arrive at that, and you reach. You have the in a text and find the super sensuous and super punk. Anything that you hardly America. Then in a realm in the practical setting or practical dimension of the we want to do this one idea with a call satellite on the so-called phenomenon, the medium phenomenon, the carbonic phenomenon, the phenomena we institute as you understand them, the normal record within the cube, time stays continuum. When these phenomena are appraised and appreciated from your normal benefit and so you want to tell you exactly what happened when any a simple event take place. First thing to note is that there is no going of one part from here to there. Telepathy we want to do a measure truth. Telepathy is not bragging apart. Easy that they decided. Thoughts you don't go like bird from here to there, but little way of fun here. Maybe you. But in such feats, where audience or crab wine, what I wasn't at the beginning. The little browning bits can't move apart. The words appear to that. But there is the simultaneity of the texture. And don't get into the with that Numian idea of meaningful coincidence. Was it not? Oh, then beneath iconic. He's ultimately different. He has elaborated some to ignorant and come over space unrectified build method. But this is from our angle. We have not paid comment on load matters quite important for the moment. But what we want to host on your motive is this. That the function of being as knowledge involves no element of time. That is great action. For us, it's two needs of the conscious principle. That the principle property that knowing that the function of being involved no reference to time. It's a multi good thing to think about. There is no time element in the knowing as such. Reporting of the knowing involves time. Knowing that you know involves time. but there is a strange final tendency about wind and noise. And to grasp that, the psychometrist doesn't know that he knows, he becomes the object for the moment. And there will be no time. No time left. If time is left, he will not know it. Because time has a separated influence from the cognition and the complaint.
Could I that I correlate hot way of putting your kind of food that while there is no time, there is, however, the fuller realization that naturally we project upon the future because that is the way we run the film through. We project the fuller, the fullness of knowing on future and her do the future potentiality for growth. That can grow me, but
That's accepted, but see, this is what is called an epiphenomenon for which the truth of growth exists, meaning evolution exists. But try to visualize the moment of realization, the knowing as that. There's no time in that. What could you do? That the reporting of and gradual utilization of the glimpse of knowledge that involves time. And as you said, when you throw it on the screen, it involves time. Yeah, that's the ideal symbol to be drawn into this explanation. On a screen of evolution or application, time is necessary, time is inevitable, inescapable. But what takes place there when a psychometric knows is that he becomes. There is no traveling of the nature or the property of this object from the object to his brain. Meaning it can. Now that on that will comment with some greater elucidation. But thoughts don't travel in the way generally people imagine them to. That way, that what we mean it is that thoughts don't travel in the sense that anything else doesn't. Not only thoughts, feelings, my whole personality is traveling to India now, or to London, or to Vienna, or to North Pole. There is an incessant flow of standards, but it's not thinking now of some man in London that gives him the telepathic report.
what correlates the company around that you told in one of our earlier incidents that the fact of knowledge, the timeless, the act of knowing is entire.
One, that's that's commercial essence. You remember it so well.
Can ban the view correlated with what many people call freak.
No. Oh, the spanback could be calculated as vibration, as frequency, oscillation, just movement. But one feature on there which tell you right now is this: if you can visualize the frequency which life itself had of oscillation in reference to the primary nature of life, you could say that it's life teaching, right? But it also is not quite plain.
Or when a person with day walks on fire, he it eventually got raised to frequency higher than the box to be out there. Now, we're trying to get a more precise way of expressing that. According to Silicit, there is no such frequency recognized.
Well, but what you have in mind is right, because the kind of life sequence we like to call it is has to be either raised or lowered. But
Was it the frequency that they Gardner measures Clinton Khan mapped out as going up 700 while they're down there? 700 out in fiber. Bayou.
so you could say that it's kind of sequency.
In other words, in clairvoyance, the rating of the yeah, rated by the EMR. Fine of company.
Yes, but we'll look a slight distinction, which is this: that it's an incidental effect. The raisement of the frequency is not causal. It has no causal efficacy. That's very important to point it out and remember that raising of the frequency by itself does not, it's an incidental aspect of this and evolution necessitating physical frequency. But that's only a symptom, not the cause. That confusion is made in modern science. We say that early the frequency entered up. Tell them.
What makes it to start cold, it would be very helpful to know to what physical thing it applies.
Yes, and it's not an unconditioned causation. Quite often, if you remove the symptom, the bacteria also goes. In some yes, it could also act like temporary cause. But in the final analysis, the frequency by itself is no responsible agent for bringing about the
What's moving in the frequency?
that is it.
That responded to all.
We could call it that there, if we like. Okay.
Or just put, I don't know what term to use for argon energy, light energy.
You don't know.
Or rather, that is standard. Which is sometimes evidenced as a Weber vibration, which is not the vibration itself. Is a lit Galbraith.
Could be said, but the alpha nuclear, not the atom nuclear.
Word the animal.
But not as we view today. If we include the light principle itself in that, first and primary, and then atom. something like that. We'll do the sort of last two monogram on Spanda. That will solve quite a set of problems.
Get back to the relationship to fatigue term theory and its continuum of the body. The light element of copper activate the spanda, which in turn may cause it to vibrate at a rate which approaches supertension. Is that fair?
Well, but here I have to put it, I'll put it this way. It's not the life principle in the copper all alone, but the correlation, the kingdom, the fact of being correlated excites the scandic continuum to function and to vibrate, if you like to put it at a higher level.
Much better way of playing on our head and mind.
That's we studied that slightly and pass this word on with us. How do you think late is meaning? Does it love you up? How are you following? Ah, I'm not linking me. But for you, Ria. Oh, you too.
Could you?
It's
I worked a lot on the bed and that.
yeah.
I only think that you were at those.
Yeah.
Could you? I wanted to ask for a list of what's the 7 are, the 7 principles that make get the 7 number right the back.
What the 7 principles are?
They view their stages in a process that has something that distinguishes them one from another. I wonder would be that. He made his crutches to a fundamental either.
See, our body is 3.5 hands. If we make the hand as our measure, anybody's body is 3.5 hands of his type or himself or herself. This is not true only of organic, but of an inorganic entity. And body being a case, if you like, of having at least in one way two directions. Call it back and front, call it low and high. Or in extended sense, call it the astral body and on body. No, the first truth about the number 7 in the contrast is it that your body in full, that is implies itself. It 7 yourself, hand being the measure. A fact about organic entity and have it claimed also inorganic entity. Everything measures itself by 7. in plastic returns there are called the 7 seas. There are only 7 oceans in the pocket Saptasilavaha. There are 7 days in the week. There are
Asatyan Sakas.
no,
Seven with a photograph. The reason they say 3.5, then it's a body. It's because the halfway good purpose is all intuition and evidence. The had a current matter that's being all step. And 3.5 more steps evolve as a people time.
correct.
There.
Yet that is the basis of the sevenfold distinction between, the co-capital distinction, the spirit, the soul, the mind.
Be there. They're both coming around.
And that is really the basic principle, evolution and involution. DNA and DNA.
Well, that goes an entirely new line on the concept of keeping sevenfold. I suppose it responded with the borderline of superconscious. Maybe we don't start from what we are, but from our basic nature. We are already 3.5 times the basic element. It must become 7 times that element. We're already halfway to that goal. That's a little bit, and I think you took pain. Yeah, there's been another.
The spine of
Right. Yeah. Waste.
snake. Do it. Okay. Are incompetent to pick up name. But we know you. It's not name that is important to us. Excuse for failing to refer to you. Oh, but our spine is not correct. Our pineal gland is extraordinarily evolved.
Was evolve.
But the spine from where it has to be controlled, the Kundalini effect on the pineal gland is not yet operative. It's like something ready to blow up. Okay. A screw has to be just tightened and it works up. I'm very glad to welcome her into our stream of effect. Into ask me something now. Let us come to more human levels. Can you Yeah, and have a chat with me later. Calling under 10 minutes.
At the like you just at the how her spine might be screwed up. In other words, what you might suggest that would remedy her condition.
Has she sometimes experienced kind of pain or a dull ache in the waist? I have backache. Oh, no. Hmm? Yes, that is the. Well, also, thank you. I'm sorry. 이게 내 힘을 합칠까? How about you? How you been? Fine. Okay. I'm glad you could come today.
What is?
We know are that you don't like to be asked a larger thing, perhaps they ought not to even ask. So we're actually somewhat concerned with the possible lengths of time so that we can prepare ourselves for it, meet the that may pass before Andrija rejoins our Duke in one capacity or another.
Yeah. How much time will I have to do?
Yeah, but we should prepare ourselves for the full term of 2 years for which the Army would have us believe he's in, or whether he can be back with us as a working member and lifetime in that.
Well, that's been really very, very astrological.
I know, and I hesitate to act really that it's so uppermost in the mind of
But take it since you ask. We got to answer. Take. We don't give one answer. We'll give you 3. 6 months, 11 months. Fraction of packing. About 6 months. Less than 6 months. Second to the top. 11 months.
Another question. I'm wondering whether or not you were aware of the other contact which Columbia had made in Washington.
Yeah.
Whether or not the work that they were concerned over the oh they were concerned with the occult work and also concerned over certain aspects of a certain foreign country that was utilizing the occult principle for faith or perfect. So that this agency really ended up some concern to us, and I'm wondering whether or not we should go out and go all out in effort in order to try to work along with them. In other words, I'm thinking that the representatives will be here, and we have a small idea to what they're interested in as to whether or not we should fly along with them along that line.
Well, your question is quite justified, but if some other people are using these things in a base sub element, it is not that we must use it in the best language. We might use it the better way. Another idea that if we, it is all of us, human, we, could tell anything that is earthy and if we could direct the use so far as our own instrumentation concerned, we won't put it there unless we are empowered. That's what, who said it? He said it this morning. That we do not want to lose our directive, we do not want to subordinate and get stolen. Rope should be in our hand, and then alone we'll work with it. We are not working with any person or program or active passive instruments to be controlled as they desire. No. We can work and we won't. Actually, the position will be like we will use them as we want, not they using us as we want. You see, unfortunately, as wild that you are, you realize the limitations of government plans and laws. We honestly couldn't tell you the unfoldment of events we indicate. We do go to the very best limit. But if we do the next thing and one more inch, we frustrate the law, we do not remain outside, and we do not leave you free. That's more important. Going to see that you have to pass through the anxiety, these struggles, and through the preparations which could come about only when you are anxious. If we place the results right in your hand, if you become automata, and we are, you don't. You are the great loser if I tell you that Andrija will hear on this moment. Or if I tell you that look here, there are these 3-4 bytes cutting, you will stay this adds to that. But we can give you the law in your hand that since we are associating ourselves with this great effort, which is small in your eyes, but in our eye, it's very great. And we shall be around, we shall get them to talk to us, we shall influence their thinking, we shall see the very best that can be pulled out of them. Therefore, we are all of you and we are magnificently situated because we are in excellent hands. We are doing our best. Excellent help is coming. We came, she, and I had gone marine so perfectly qualified to guide. Everything is so temptingly rosy and optimistic. One day we will feel that it was just wonderful that Andrija was away. These things wouldn't have happened in its. So that sort of mood should exist within us. Our services are at your disposal. It is never take us as dictators. You need not do a thing we are asking you to do. If you so desire, we might advise, as a doctor would, that look here, you cannot eat this thing if you want to live. Sometimes doctors get offended if you don't behave in accordance with their suggestion. We never get offended. All what we do is submit and humble service for your acceptance. We might mention that it's that in all genuine in your and our highest interests of world peace and world betterment. And take a blanket overall attitude toward this. We are God guided. All the prophets of the world have told us we don't practice the presence of God because it's difficult. Sometimes we do for emotional reasons, but not for scientific reasons. That's why we are fascinated over here. And let us practice presence of God in this way. That God never somehow thought it necessary enough to give us a word of guidance. Let us feel glorious about it. And let us live in terms of what they want to have us do. And anyway, we have to choose from several conflicting alternatives. Whatever we choose has a kind of certification. Here we have both a certification and sanctification because they take the responsibility. So this is not blindfoldedness. This is only trusting in ourselves and the Fat's presence which shows itself around us in all its fullness. So thank you, dear ones, and I shall be back in a couple of moments. We might return soon enough. At least I might. The rest of it therapeutic.
I wanted, if I could ask the teacher, help us do the other controls.
Okay. Yes, I'm glad you asked you. I'm glad you asked that because we hesitated. That
It's very important.
I tell you, we have a very profound piece of knowledge to impart to you in this direction. I very happy you asked it. All the mediums and the forces who control him belong to a comparatively passive and dead realm of the evolutionary process. We, as we told you to begin with when we came first time, we are the positive principles of cosmos. We penetrate, visit persons in an altogether different direction from the forces which visit mediums. We are the positive ones. They are the passive ones. Both the mediums as well as the forces who visit. One day we will explain it to you. Perhaps we have done, I don't remember, somebody might have done. The mechanics of their actions. If you don't remember it, we'll tell it tomorrow or day after. The crucial point which you have asked and how we answer it is this way. Since we are the positive ones and they are passive, they are at such complete obedience to us that to assure you, we might tell you, though without transcending our limits, that we shall take care of them. They will play well because they can never have the thinnest chance of counteracting our ways. They will not fail if we do not want them to fail. They will be the very best if we want them to be the best. And let them work both ways, outside and inside the copper case. Do expose them to the copper cane effectiveness, every one of them. And they will do their best. We shall be able to situate them. This is fine. He's a very fine person. She is also mediumistic, but not exactly developed that way. But she received her pineal gland is excellent in that way. But the Kundalini force, if it is activized, will guide her into higher level revelations. Some of the medium which are coming when you are expected is also very fine touch, highly responsive, also responsible with these people I've watched quite often. So that's imperative. We could tell him that we'll take care, that we'll tell ethically about the bruises, particularly on the demonstration art.
I'm very glad at that. I've come to regard the necessary using this blade to have a ladder of mind to transform the highest idea into a form that can be utilized by hesitate to me.
We must have a ladder of mind. We're having it there. As a matter of fact, persons who are coming into this stream of effort, because they are forming a real ladder of what did it mean? Army? No. I follow who's speaking. Oh, Arthur. I said they are forming the real ladder. And I have picked up these two currents from your meditation to have a positive atmosphere around all our subjects and around the whole center. We appreciate that thought very much because it's so necessary to give you confidence. As I say, I am visiting you tonight, that the copper cake is a definite projection to effectuate an advance in words thinking. Pointer knowledge will be progressing the yield, but all of you here, we can tell you not to achieve a particular demonstration alone, but we could tell you in all sincerity that every one of you could have a real faith in program coverage. Our knowledge will always remain limited. Even after 5 years, after 7 years, no. You will be really uh, clear from the least doubts. But after 5 years, we might still have small void which might remain unanswered. We live lives together, man and wife. No 30 years, 50 years, okay. It's a progressive identification. But Mark Dewey progressed it. At no moment there is finalization in the sense that the person 500% understand the other person. No. So our main purpose is visiting Nukamite is to drive a real sake. In this is a planning program, literally in yourself. Our sun is big. Now next we'll go ahead and let us go in full security to blend with that. Because the received minds are reacting the most correctly because they're variable extension of the copper about which the fire is to be revealed. That's the hint that copper doesn't exhaust like air but has extensions. We should yarn it as you said evening. But you are not altogether convinced. Nobody is. It's not your misfortune alone. But as long as we have the enthusiasm and the interest, 1 million failures only add to the enthusiasm. They don't make enthusiasm less fervent. So that's great inspiration we should energize ourselves with. And it's all our very best wishes for you. I must go within a split second. Thank you very much, darling. And we wish you all peace and St. Francis said,